Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me in another class. I'm really excited to show you all the different ways of working with FL Studio 20. So let's get started. The first thing I wanted to talk about is adding your own samples to the browser. And you do this by clicking this drop-down arrow here in the browser and clicking on Configure Extra Folders. From there, you can simply browse to the folder with your samples. And as soon as you click OK, you can already see that the samples folder has been added in the browser. But there is an even easier way to add folders to the browser by simply dragging and dropping them in. Another thing I wanted to show you is how to add your own plugins to FL Studio. And you do this by clicking in the options and going into Manage Plugins. FL Studio will scan your system for all the installed plugins. And if you can't find the plugin in your list, just make sure that all of these search folders are the ones where you installed your plugins. And from there, we can search for plugins in this Find window here. I will search for Serum. And then you can favorite it by clicking the star beside the plugin. And when you close this window, you'll be able to find this plugin now in your channel rack. Another thing you'll notice in the browser is that there's these 3 tabs here at the top. And these are simply shortcuts to these existing folders here. And so if you want to create your own shortcut, click on this drop down here. Click on the next available snap. Snap 4 is free for us. You browse to the folder that you'd like to add as a quick tab. Then you'll click Show Only Opened Folders. And then we'll rename it to Splice Packs in this case. Give it a color. And then very important that you need to choose an icon for it in order for it to show up as a tab. So I'm just going to add a simple folder icon here. Hit enter. And there we go. A Splice Samples is added to the browser. We have a quick access folder here. So when working in FL Studio, the first thing that you'll probably do is start browsing for some samples and start adding them to your channel rack. So as you already know, you can simply drag and drop this into the sampler. And now we have our kick drum here. But actually, there is a lot of much quicker and more convenient ways of doing this. So let's fill this kick with 4 steps. And when you're working on your project, you can quickly replace samples just by simply clicking on your mouse wheel. You can also do this by holding Shift and hitting the up and down arrow on your keyboard. And as you hear, it quickly replaces the sample in the sampler. It's just a really convenient way of browsing samples and kind of auditioning them with our track. So we can have our track running and have our samples replaced to hear along with the rest of our music, whether it fits or not. And another thing that you can add from the browser is not only samples, but also MIDI files. So FL Studio comes with these scores here. In the previous class, I showed you how to add stamps into the piano roll. So all of these stamps are actually available here in the browser. So you can browse and add these advanced chords or simple chords right into your channel rack. So firstly, let's add an instrument. I'll mute the kick. Let's get started with adding some of these chords into the piano roll. And you do it exactly the same way as you did with the samples. So you can middle click or click on your mouse wheel, just replace the chords. You see how easy it was to quickly audition different chords in through the browser. There's plenty of MIDI packs available online, and I will include this simple MIDI pack here with some of the most common chords in the key of C major and C minor. So even if you don't know much about music, I'm going to show you how to quickly arrange these into chord progression.